Alrighty, friends, we're back for your favorite podcast show of the week. It's Location Weekly. It's episode number 686, and we are recording live on September the 9th. Hi, Brianna, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. Yeah, it was a good week last week. Karsten was in town with his eldest daughter, and we just, did some just sort of fun, social, chill things, hanging out together, some nice meals, some nice touristy things, some beach time while the weather was still good here in Toronto, things like that. So that was nice. And then I actually on Friday night went to a concert, which I don't do all that often anymore, but went and saw The Cult, which was a big band back in the late 80s, in around their British sort of rock type band, I guess. Classify them. I don't even know how to classify them. They're kind of like a little bit metally, a little bit rock, a little bit new wave. So
It
anyhow,
was fun.
they were good. Yeah.
Good.
So
Yeah, it was nice weather here in New York this weekend. The US Open concluded, so um, you know, I'm gonna have to like switch now to, I guess, baseball, end of season and college football.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's good.
Okay. All right. Well, let's jump into it. We have four stories as usual, and I'll let you kick it off.
All right. So, a new global partnership has been announced between Shopify and Roblox experiences. This is kind of interesting, right? So now anybody who has, creators of Roblox basically are going to include brands and retailers that they can sell their physical goods within the platform via Shopify's checkout. So you'll be able to shop physical goods within the game, products like clothing, accessories, collectibles, all designed by maybe your favorite creators and brands and within Roblox. We've talked about this a bit. We've heard other brands, I would say, having like a store within Roblox, but this is interesting because Shopify obviously opens the doors to so many different brands. Um, and that will be selling within the Roblox games. This is nearly 80 million highly engaged Roblox users, is what they're quoting, which is a lot. I think this is an interesting play. What I think is not so interesting is how, you know, the quotes that are coming out from the executives are like, we just want to improve human connection through play. Let's just call it what it is. We want to drive revenue, right? We want to make more money. We want to make more experiences within this. I don't know how it's possibly human connection because you're inside of a virtual game. It's not human connection. We've seen the stats. We're the loneliest, group of people that there ever has been because of our technology. But I think this is interesting. I think it's a good business use case. And I think it's exciting. I'm interested to see what the adoption is going to be like and how this scales with this younger demographic playing Roblox on the regular as they get more shopping and buying power year over year. So I think it's interesting. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's actually a really interesting partnership in that, a lot of the brands, the retailers that have been experimenting or coming into, the metaverse environments and particularly Roblox, setting up virtual stores and all of those kinds of things. I think on the physical world side of what they do, many of these brands, Shopify has been going after them, to switch over their POS systems and use, Shopify, at the till. And so I think that if you can have sort of a cohesive, integrated experience between, what you're using in the physical world for transactions and what you're using in the virtual world for transactions, and there's sort of connectivity between that, that could be an advantage, right? And especially if the focus here, as we've seen with all these sort of virtual stores, be it in Decentraland or Roblox or, any of these environments, is kind of trying to drive connection and experience and gamification in that virtual world environment, and ultimately brand touch, but at the same time then having this sort of these types of often we see these exclusive products that you can only get in the Roblox Gucci store or what have you, or Nike or what have you, and then you're buying them in the Roblox environment, but then they're delivered to you in the physical world. So it's this sort of trying to cross and link the two worlds together. But for me, it's, I think there's an interesting thing potentially between, the data that can be shared across, the two environments if you're, already, let's say, using Shopify in your real world store. So I think there's, some good potential here.
Awesome.
All right, moving over to the UK now for our second story. Tesco, a big, grocery retailer over there, obviously, one of the biggest in the world. They have announced that they've signed a first deal with a New Zealand-based grocery retailer called Foodstuffs North Island. And this is about taking technology that they've, pioneered and built out for themselves. Um, it's a cloud-based picking software for online orders that they've been using at Tesco for quite some time. They've currently their system handles 1 million online orders a week, and 85% of those orders are picked from their supermarkets. And so they've proven this technology works and that can handle large volumes and scale. And so what they're starting to do now is license this technology or sell this technology to other grocery retailers in international markets. Obviously, not with those who compete with them at home in the UK per se, but in New Zealand, like they're doing here, and potentially in other countries, making the technology that they've proven, works really well, be available to others, and sort of starting to get, generate revenue from other sources, like we've seen with retail media networks, but now, looking at other ways to sort of generate revenue from technology that they've built for their own use. So again, it's a cloud-based picking software. It receives online orders, and then it maps those orders on handheld devices to the most efficient route for their staff to then pick the items from the supermarket shelves. So it's all about, efficiency and time savings and, and getting the orders, out to the consumers, quickly. So they're currently testing this at 2 stores in New Zealand. They plan to roll it out to 150 stores. And then, Tesco plans to sort of start to license this out to other grocery retailers in other countries. Um, and they're not the only ones doing this. They have a local UK rival called Ocado, who does something similar. They've partnered with 13 grocery stores internationally. So Tesco's just, trying to get into that game and make a name for themselves as a technology company. So any thoughts from you?
No, not a lot to add. I like to see that there's some good competition here. It's nice to be like the first, but the first isn't always the best or the clear winner. So I think this is good just to see how they're going to differentiate themselves. What lessons can they learn from somebody who's already been in the space for a bit and working with a handful of grocers? And I think those are some big numbers to address, right? Those online
Yeah.
order numbers. So. Okay, let's go over to the data side of the conversation with IRI. Many of you know IRI. It's a Chicago-based market research firm. They also sell audiences. Well, now they're expanding that a little bit, and they have a new web-based platform that's designed to help consumer, retail, and media companies activate purchase-based audiences across grocery, drug, club, convenience channels, all those things. So very in line with the retail media networks, commerce media networks, and kind of what they're doing now. They are wrapping that and pulling that into kind of their IRI audience builder. So it's powered by de-identified data. They quote that they have over 350 million national shopper loyalty cards. That's accessed through their IRI liquid data platform. So they're saying it's like a concierge-based audience development service. So in my mind, that's custom audiences that are created. And obviously you can create like these purchase-based audiences in a few seconds. And, they're offering access to what they consider deterministic data. I think there's a lot of different audience types like categories, brands, switchers, maybe you use like Tide and then you switch to Gain or something like that. Heavy buyers, lost buyers, all different kind of, I would say like filters that you can put on this type of data. So they can really tailor the search for specific findings. Could be by time period, by engagement metrics, geo-based. So there's a lot of different toggles that marketers and advertisers would have access to. One thing that they are quoting is that this service can have ROAS or return on ad spend up to 4 times higher compared to traditional contextual or demographic targeting. I think this is interesting, right? Like A lot of people are doing this. I think there's a lot of opportunity to do it better, to do it more. Different data sources and data types are obviously really important. I think what's also important is understanding how how those consumers can be reached by advertisers across various environments, because targeting them is one thing, but also kind of understanding how they are engaging with mobile, how they're engaging with CTV, how they're moving throughout the real world, I think plays a big part in whether this is successful or not. So I think this is one of the key pieces. I think it's a great addition to the IRI offering, and I expect this to do well.
Yeah, I not a ton to add to this one. I mean, I love the deterministic audience pieces, these sort of switchers, heavy buyers, lost buyers, I think those are things that are, difficult to get at sometimes. I mean, it's a lot easier. We see a lot more availability of audiences, that are, based on, luxury retail shoppers or, business travelers or those kinds of category type things. But I think going after some of these things and making that, easily accessible is a good thing. And I think from the brand side, they have a quote in their press release from Kroger's 8451, their data group. And I know from personally talking to those guys that, they're always looking for, better access to data, other ways to unlock the data that they have within their own retail environments. And connecting it up with other, data sets like this. So I think the brands want access to that. I think the retailers want to, find ways to generate revenue from that. So I think this plays nicely into, both sides of that equation.
Yep.
Okay, a final story now. So we're going to talk about Life 360, the app that, has been around forever, is now a publicly traded company. And this, so if you don't know about this app, I mean, I think this app was around even when we started the LBMA in like 2010. So, or it feels like it has anyways. So this is an app that is all about location sharing, being able to, follow and find friends and family. They've focused on safety services and things like that. And they've generated revenue from subscriptions, tied to that, over the years. They're announcing now, and this is something that they had announced on their earnings call back in February that they were going to be going in this direction. But they've announced this new sort of direct advertising sales business. And the first partner that has come on board with that is Uber. And so they just announced this. They expect that they're going to generate between $5 and $10 million by the end of this year in ad revenue. So this is a completely new, sort of category or a new approach to revenue generation for Life 360. It's not something that they've been in before, as I said. Um, but they've been testing this out, quietly with a children's debit card company, running ads. And now, like I said, with Uber, they have partnerships that they put together with the Trade Desk, PubMatic, Google Ad Manager, and LiveRamp. So, they've got, sort of the content there, side of it in terms of supply. So I think this is rather interesting. And then, from an Uber specific partnership point of view, I like it as well because they say that for the Uber campaign, when users land from a flight, they'll get a prompt to download the ride hailing app. And then Uber will also run in-app ads using Life 360's data on its 18 plus users starting in the middle of this month. And then the focus here is to target parents of teens with teen accounts on Uber, which lets the parents then monitor their kids, sort of Uber's use. And then if the parents refer teens to create an Uber teen account, then the latter will get 6 free rides and 6 free orders in September. So I like that they're sort of cross promoting and incentivizing, sort of the use of both Uber in this case, and then, still sort of strengthening that sort of core value of Life 360 around, parents and kids and safety. So I think the combination is really strong. Any thoughts from you?
I mean, I think I can't decide if I think this is like ridiculously smart or reckless. It's like, there's a lot of
Okay.
targeting of this towards a younger demographic or parents of a younger demographic. And it wasn't that long ago that Life 360 was getting their hand slapped for misuse of children's data, right? So I just find it really interesting. But it's surprising that it took them so long to get into the advertising space, in my opinion. I think that they have a lot of data that could be quite valuable to that. And I think that, whether it's risky move or not, like they're obviously doing things with well-known companies, and getting 6 free rides and 6 free orders is a pretty big deal. I take it.
There you go. All righty. That's our show for this week. You've been listening and watching episode number 686 of Location Weekly. We thank you, as always, for your time. If you have story ideas, please reach out to us. If you have feedback, if we've talked about your company or your solution today, let us know. If we've missed something or if you have more that we can add to it, we're always happy to, go a little deeper on the stories. Yeah, so just get in touch with us, give us some likes and love on whatever platform you're consuming this. And I do want to give a shout out as well. So we have our next LBMA Retail Local Conference coming up October 22nd and 23rd in Atlanta. So if you want to get involved in that as a speaker, sponsor, attendee, let us know about that as well. So yeah, we'll see you next week with another show. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.